Come in. It's a gateway. I'm making a gateway to opportunity. The opportunity is board games, Nick.
We have a new studio, but our cold opens are just as good as they used to be. What's up, everybody? My name is Nick.
I'm Mike.
We are the Brothers Murph, and today we are doing our top 10 gateway games.
Yes.
So these are games to get new people, hopefully, into the hobby,
Right.
or at least into modern board games.
We hope so. So if you're new to the hobby, welcome. You should make sure you have an account at Board Game Geek because you're going to need that later in life. If you're already steeped in the hobby, here's some suggestions of things to maybe play with your non-gamer yet friends.
Yeah, and we're gonna say in this list we're gonna steer away from party games for the most part.
Yes,
we're gonna make a separate list for party games, but these would be kind of like gateway games. Get people the hobby, show them something different they haven't seen before.
Yeah, let's do it.
This is actually the first thing we're recording in this whole new studio, and so I'm a little bit horrified that it's not going to work for some reason, but nonetheless, Horrified is going to be our number 10. We really, really like Horrified, and we think it's a decent gateway game. I will say that I think Horrified is kind of like on the edge of maybe being a little bit too heavy as a gateway game, but I do think that you get a little bit of leeway with heaviness if it's a cooperative game, because Horrified is a cooperative game, and so if people have questions, if people have problems, they can just openly ask those things, and they don't have to worry about, like, I don't know, giving up their strategy or like letting their opponents know what cards they have or anything like that. They can kind of just ask questions freely, and I think Horrified is a great cooperative game. There's a couple different kinds of Horrified. Actually, I think another one just got announced right now. But this is Horrified, the Universal Monsters. This is kind of the original one, where you're going up against Universal movie monsters, so like Creature of the Black Lagoon, a Dracula, Frankenstein and Frankenstein's Bride, and you're basically going to be having one of these monsters, and it's ultimately a pick up and deliver game where everyone is going to be a different character. All the characters are a little bit different. They all have a little bit of a special power, which is also very, very nice, because I think one of the best things about gateway games is you kind of want to show people something they've never seen before, right? So everyone having a different role and having a different ability is one of those things. And it's kind of a pick up and deliver game. All of the monsters, what you have to do is you have to defeat them to win the game, and they all work differently. You have to do different things. Like Dracula, you have to go find his caskets and you have to like smash them up and break them. You need to keep Frankenstein and Frankenstein's Bride away from each other because they're constantly trying to get towards each other. And then there are also different villagers around town that you're trying to like pick up and then move to their kind of preferred location before they get eaten by the various monsters. It's really, really fun. It's a really good, we didn't like coin this phrase, I don't think at least, we kind of call crisis management game. It's very much that, where things are constantly getting worse and you're kind of having to manage that. We really, really like Horrified. It's got great art. It's got a great look. It feels very cooperative because you can really help each other out on each other's turns. And because it's a cooperative game, you kind of get a little more leeway as a gateway game. And I think it's really, really great. We love Horrified.
So number 9 is Can't Stop. This is a pure push your luck game where you are going to be rolling dice. You're going to be rolling 4 dice and making 2 combinations of dice-based numbers. So you might have a 2 and a 5 making a 7, a 3 and a 6 making a 9. You can make any combination of those 4 dice that you wish. Now, this is a game where you're going to be bumping up these different tracks that represent all of the possible sums of 2 dice, so from 2 to 12. And the 2s and 12s, which of course are harder to roll, have shorter tracks, and things like 7, which are the easiest in theory to roll, have the longest tracks. And you're trying to make it to the top of 3 tracks first. Now, the only problem is on a turn, you can at most work on 3 different tracks. So if I'm already working on 5, 7, and 10, I am now locked into those 3 tracks for this turn, and I need to roll at least one of those 3 numbers to progress on those tracks, or I will bust. You can, of course, decide, you know what, I've pushed my luck here, I'm gonna stop and kind of save your progress on those. You'll put little markers down and say, now I'm this far up the track, might be halfway or whatever it is. And then in the future, if you start working on those tracks again, you'll pick up where you left off. But if you roll dice and you don't roll any possible combinations that are of those 3 tracks you're working on, you lose all progress from that turn. And that's really the whole game. This is one of those games that to us, we love the beauty and simplicity. It's just the one question of like, do I roll the dice one more time? Am I feeling lucky? And going for these kind of like big runs, because you could get on a hot roll and just keep rolling successful, moves for your tracks and stuff and have a big win. So it creates big moments, highs and lows, and that's why it's great. That's Can't Stop.
Number 8 is Arraial. Arraial is a really good game that I feel like kind of went a little bit under the radar. When it first came out, I feel like people talked about it a bit, and then it kind of went away. But this is a Tetris style game, and a lot of, again, we talk about like what makes a good gateway game, and I think being able to utilize something that your new players are probably going to inherently understand. And Tetris is going to be one of those things because pretty much everyone on the planet has at least heard of Tetris or knows what it's about. And this game feels a lot like Tetris. It's a polyomino tile laying game, but you actually move things into like your grid kind of in a Tetris way. This is Arraial is I believe a Portuguese block party is what it is. So it's about putting on a big block party, which also is a theme I think is very, very cool. But you basically are going to have different people who are different colors, and they're kind of bringing different stuff to your party, but they're all these polyomino Tetris pieces, and then you have your block, and you're trying to fill it in with these people. And so what you do is there's kind of this central depot that can spin, and on there's going to be 3 cards that are going to have these polyomino shapes on them. So on your turn, you have 3 action points, and what you can do is you can essentially turn the depot to essentially change the orientation of these Tetris blocks, and then once you've decided, you will then bring one down into your block party. But the thing is once you start bringing something down, you then can't turn it like Tetris. In Tetris, you can turn it all the way down. You can't do that in Arraial. So you have to get it in the orientation you want, and then it'll literally go straight down into your block party. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to get like colors together, so green with green, yellow with yellow. Anytime you make a group of 2 or more of the same color, then a party goer of that color, so like a little yellow meeple, will go and stand on that little yellow area, and you essentially attracted someone to your block party. If you have the biggest group of one of these colors, like the biggest group of yellow, you then get the hot couple, the hot yellow couple, the hot green couple, the hot red couple, and it's actually 2 meeples that are kind of like joined hand in hand. It's very cute. And so if you have the biggest area, you get like the hot couple coming to your thing. It's very, very fun. And that's pretty much the game. Whenever you complete a full row, kind of like a kind of Tetris row, you have this party banner up top, and that'll move up. If you ever get to the point where your party banner overtakes your polyomino tiles, you'll then lose it, and you kind of want that because it's going to score you more points. But it's very, very simple. You're just spinning this depot. You can do that essentially up to 3 times, and then you're going to bring these tiles down in there, and you want to match color to color. But again, you can't control what tiles are going out on the depot, and so you're kind of stuck with what you got. But it's very, very simple, and again, it hinges on something that most people probably already understand, which is Tetris. And this one particularly, much more than like other polyomino tile laying games, feels like a Tetris game because you're literally spinning something and then bringing it down into your kind of like Tetris grid. It's really, really fun, and it's super simple. It kind of utilizes knowledge that people already have. It's got a great theme and a great look. We love Arraial.
All right, number 7 is Santorini. This is a good game if you're a fan of things like chess. This is what we call like an abstract strategy game where the setting and things are abstract, like chess. It's like there are knights and castles and things, but you're really just kind of moving pieces around. Santorini kind of follows a similar idea. This is a game where you're sort of gods and you're moving people around on the island of Santorini trying to build a complete building and get your little figure onto the 3rd level of that building. So on a turn, the structure is really simple. You're going to move a figure, and then one of the 8 spaces around your figure, you're going to place a building block piece. These buildings are the kind of the classic white with blue domed buildings in Santorini. They have these kind of 3 levels and then a dome on top. and you are going to move and then build and move and build. And you can stack things on. If there's already a level 1 block, you can put the next level, the level 2 above it. And on your turns, you can at most move up 1 level. So you can kind of do these stair steps. So you're trying to build in such a way that you are always going to be able to have a way to kind of progress up these buildings, build them up around you, so you can end up on that 3rd level to win the game. The only problem is, if you have a building that is 3 levels high, your opponent can go next to that building and build a dome on top of it, which means then no one can stand on top of that building. And so you have to search another place to try to win the game. So you're trying to play really defensively and trying to block out your opponent. And you're also trying to, make sure that you can create a situation where I have 3 different ways, they all lead to victory for me, so you can't actually beat me as you move up and jump off of buildings and stuff. There are god powers you can use that change up your things you can do on a turn, the way you move, all sorts of things. Tons of stuff to explore. That is Santorini.
So one that kind of had to be on the list is Ticket to Ride. We have Ticket to Ride Nordic Countries as our favorite one, but I actually wouldn't suggest that one as the gateway one. It just happens to be the one that we have. This is kind of a classic gateway game. There's other classic gateway games like Carcassonne and stuff that we actually didn't put on the list because we kind of wanted to switch it up. We wanted to put Ticket to Ride on there because base level Ticket to Ride with the kind of the USA map is just dead simple and just works so well. I played just base Ticket to Ride recently again and was just like, that's right. This is why this has sold like 4 million copies on the planet, because it's just so darn good. Love Ticket to Ride. Ticket to Ride is a game where you are trying to make routes across, in this case, America, if you're on the base map, or you could be in like the Scandinavian countries in terms of Ticket to Ride Nordic countries. And you have essentially a ticket, and your ticket is going to want you to make an unbroken connection of your trains from one city to another one. So it could be like Los Angeles to Philadelphia. That'd be a really long one. Or like Denver to like Atlanta. That'd be like a shorter one. And you're basically putting out your trains. And how you do that is you get these cards. On your turn, you can basically do 2 things. You can gain cards, or you can turn in cards to put your trains down on the map. On the map, each route in between cities is going to be a specific color, like all green or all red or all purple or something like that. And so if the route is 3 green spaces, you need to turn in 3 green cards, and then you can put your 3 trains down connecting those 2 cities. But there's a lot of blocking in this game, because if someone else puts their trains there, well, guess what? You can't use that route anymore. You will then have to go around. So it's very tactical, but it's very simple at the same time, which is why it works so well as a gateway game. It really does something different. Like, people who have never played modern board games have really never seen something like this, but it's dead simple. You get in cards, you're putting them down, and you're trying to connect 2 cities. That's a very intuitive thing. We've talked about that before. Again, working on people's intuitive knowledge. Like, oh yeah, I need to get from Denver to, New York. Okay, cool. How do I do that? I need to go on a route from here to here. People just inherently understand those things, and this just works so well. Ticket to Ride, again, has so many expansions. They just came out with a legacy version, which apparently is very good, and it stays around forever because it's just that good. And it is that good at introducing new people too. Absolutely love Ticket to Ride. Again, we have Ticket to Ride Nordic Countries. It's our favorite. Our whole family is pretty much from Norway, so we just love it. And it's just, oh, cool, we're going around Norway, we're going to Oslo and stuff like that. Love Ticket to Ride. It's great.
Number 5 is Draftasaurus. This is a game where you are going to be getting a little handful of these wooden dino meeples, and you are going to be choosing one of them. Of all the ones you hand, you only get to pick one, and you are going to put them into a different enclosure in this dinosaur zoo that you are making. And then what you're going to do is all the leftover dinos you're going to pass to the opponent on your left or right, and then your opponent on your left or right is going to pass you their dinos, and now you have a new handful of dinos to then choose one from, and on you go until you've ultimately placed 12 dinos into these different pens. Now, what's really cool about this game is that each of the enclosures want different things. One of them, you want to have one kind of dinosaur, only Triceratops, and as many of them as you can get. Similarly, there's or opposite, I should say, there is a pen where you want only different types of dinosaurs, not more than one of any of the type, whether it be Stegosaurus or whatever. You want to have a whole wide range of them. Is there when you want pairs of dinosaurs, things like that. There's just like the fun of this game really comes down to those wooden meeples. They're just cute, they're interesting, they're tactile, they're very satisfying. There's T-Rexes where whichever enclosure they show up in, you get a bonus point because they're super cool. It just feels very fun and light and playful, I guess, is something that I really appreciate as a kid who grew up with Jurassic Park being my first memory of the movies, you know, like dinosaurs were huge. They still are super popular. My daughter now loves dinosaurs, so I can't wait till she gets a little bit older so I can show her Draftasaurus. And this is one that's really cool because in that game, there's actually two sides to your zoos with different maps that have slightly different rules for how you want them to be arranged with your dinosaurs. So there's a lot of fun stuff to explore, but this is a game that you can teach and play in about 15 minutes. And that's a really, really nice thing. And just the tactile nature of those dinosaurs, the bright colors, the fact they're all different shapes makes it nice and clear to kind of track what you have in your zoo as you go along. So that's Draftasaurus.
Number 4 is going to be Dimension. I'm really glad that Dimensions is very much back in print now. It kind of was out of print for a while, but it's such a good stacking game. This is a game where you are going to have, oh God, it's so satisfying. I love this game. This is a game where you're going to have these wooden balls that are different colors. There's like green, blue, we got like orange, green, blue, white, black. And basically what you're going to do is everyone has a little kind of grid thing that you can put these wooden balls on. And you're trying to build a pyramid of these wooden balls, but you can't just stack these willy-nilly. There are going to be rules every single round about how you can stack your pyramid, and those rules are going to change. You're going to flip over cards, and those cards are going to say something like, green has to be touching white. In this whole pyramid, any green ball there has to be touching a white ball. Or it might be like, black has to be above every orange ball. So if there's an orange ball, it's going to have to be on the bottom, or at least on the middle row, because black always has to be above it. And things like that. Or it could be like orange and blue cannot touch. There can't be any white. Things like that. There's all these different rules and you're just bringing out a certain amount of them. And then everyone has to build their pyramid following those rules. And again, the rules are going to change every single round, so you don't know what's coming. And it's so satisfying, this game, because one, it's just a cool tactile game. You get to stack stuff. It's very simple in terms of what you're doing, but it's just so satisfying because a lot of times you look at these rules and you're just like, how am I going to do this? There's no way to do all these rules. And then you end up being like, oh no, okay, well, hold on. If I put this one over here, then green's not touching blue, because in this case, let's say green can't touch blue. You're like, okay, now it's not. Ooh, I can put this here. And you just end up building these pyramids. And a lot of times you can make it work. You might not be able to build the entire pyramid, which I think is all 11 of the balls. But you can usually do pretty darn good. There are situations where you might draw a card that is directly the antithesis of a different one, which is basically like, green can't touch white, and now green always has to touch white. You can't do both of those things, obviously. And so you basically will get points at the end of every round for how many balls you used in the pyramid and for how many, for how many rules you didn't break, basically. It's really, really fun. And like I said, it's very simple. You're just building a little pyramid. Everyone understands stacking stuff, right? And then you just have to follow the rules. And again, it gets kind of complex in terms of how to build it, because you're like, okay, this can't do this. It's kind of a bit of a deduction, but the rules themselves are very simple. Green has to touch orange. Orange has to be above white. It's very, very, very simple, but then you get in that kind of brain-burny puzzleness of it. And I think, again, kind of keep bringing it up, introducing people to a new thing they've never seen before. Stacking makes sense. People make, houses of cards, but then stacking with rules like this is like, whoa, that's different. I've never seen something like that. And so I just really love it. I love Dimension. For the first time I ever played it, I was like obsessed with it. I was like, this is incredible. There's actually now, this isn't really a gateway game because it's a solo game, but there's actually a little like pocket Dimension like you can get from like Barnes and Noble and stuff like that. It's really, really fun. It's basically it's Dimension, but with a bunch of different challenges, but it's a little solo game, kind of travel. It's really, really great. So if you see that, pick that up too. Dimension's outstanding.
Number 3 is confusingly number 9. The game number 9 is number 3. You get it. This is what we call a polyomino tile laying game. A polyomino tile is things like Tetris, where you have these different shapes. There are different L's or a square. But in number 9, these shapes are going to be representative of the numbers 0 through 9. So there'll be some kind of abstracted form of a 2 or a 3. And in this game, you are trying to place these weird shapes together in such a way that you can create a nice base of tiles that are all connected, and then hopefully start to place tiles onto a second or even third or fourth level, so long as they are completely supported by tiles underneath. There's no gaps or empty spaces beneath them, and you are doing this in such a way to try to score as many points as possible. So the kind of cool thing is that you are going to draw a card that's going to show one of those numbers, 0 to 9. There'll be 2 copies of each, and everyone plays that same tile. Everyone's going to play that same tile, but how you place it, of course, is up to you. So your, situations will be very different from each other by the end of the game. And what's really neat is the numbers themselves are their values in terms of points. So a 9 could be worth 9 points or 18 points and stuff. As you build higher, these kind of act as point multipliers. And a 1 and zeros and stuff are going to be worth fewer points. So you're trying to make sure that you're building up in such a way that when you have a high number come out, you have the ability to place it down in such a way that's going to score as many points as possible. Main problem with this game is everything that's on the base level, on the table itself, is going to be times 0 for the 0th floor and will be worth nothing. Only when you start to stack on top of that base layer are things worth points. So things on that first layer above the ground are worth their base value. It's times 1, so a 9 would be 9 points. If they're on the layer above that, they're going to be whatever their value is times 2. If they go above that, it might be times 3 or 4. And so you are trying to build in such a way that you have this, a nice playing field essentially to be able to stack things on top of each other. So you need things to be nice and neat and orderly. But these shapes are really strange and don't necessarily play nice like that. So it's always a really intriguing challenge. I personally love that everybody has to play the same tiles in the same order, but we all have different ways of approaching a puzzle, different ways of seeing things. So our collection of tiles at the end of the game look very different from each other. It's very satisfying, a good challenge every time. That's number 9.
Number 2 is going to be point salad. I love point salad, and point salad is dead simple, which is one of the reasons why it's such a good gateway game. Point salad is a card game, and the name point salad will get lost on new people because it's kind of an inside joke for us gamers, right? Things like Steffenfeld games, they tend to be point salads, which is a game where everything you do gives you points, right? It's a big old point salad. Everything gives you points. So this is kind of a pun on that, but it doesn't really work in that way. But nonetheless, this is a game where you are going to have a kind of tableau of cards that you can choose from, and then scoring cards as well. And then you're basically, I guess, planting things in your garden or whatever the theme is, but you're gaining these cards and then putting them in your tableau, and then you're also gaining scoring cards that will score the cards you have at the end of the game. It's very, very simple. On your turn, you can either take, I believe, 2 vegetable cards, or you can take one of the scoring cards. And the vegetables are going to be like peppers, onions, lettuce, tomatoes, things like that, just different vegetables, different things like that. And then the scoring cards will be very, very simple. It'll be like at the end of the game, you're going to get 1 point for every carrot you have. You're going to get 2 points for every set of cabbage and onion. Very, very simple. And they might also have negative points, like you're going to get -1 point for every tomato you have. Things like that. But dead simple. And that's all you're doing. You are just gaining vegetables, or you're gaining a scoring card. And it's also very nice because at the end of the game, things can score for multiple scoring cards. It's kind of a thing in games where a lot of times it's like, well, once you use this card for this scoring condition, you can't use it for anything else. Point salad is not like that. If you have a carrot card and you have multiple things that score carrot cards, that carrot card will score for all of them. It keeps it very, very simple. But it's just a set collection game. You're collecting these vegetables, and then you are collecting these scoring cards that will hopefully score those vegetables in a very advantageous way for you. Again, if you have a lot of negative cabbage things, maybe don't get cabbage cards, And so it's very, very easy to understand, very intuitive, but it just works. It works really, really well. I think it's like 2 to 6. It works good at all player counts. You can just bust it out. It's a great little filler game. But again, it just takes a card game. People understand card games, changes it up, shows them a bit of set collection, and just just works. It's got just great, simple art. Everything about it is just simple and clean and wonderful. And I love Point Salad. It's a great, great game to travel around with and introduce to new people who don't really know board games that well. It's just wonderful. I love Point Salad. It's a number 2.
So our number 1 is Project L. This is a great game, especially if you're a fan of like Tetris growing up. If you're a fan of those, I mentioned in my last time with number 9, polyomino shapes. Project L really kind of feels Tetris-like, where you are trying to fit in these pieces in as compact a way as possible, and specifically in this game, to complete puzzles. You're gonna have these various cards that are dual layer, and they're gonna show kind of a cutout area that you need to fill in completely to complete that puzzle. And you're gonna fill them in with these kind of acrylic pieces that are sort of similar to the Tetris pieces, a little elbow or a straight stick and things like that, a zigzag. And you are trying to fill in these things completely. When you fill it in completely, you get all of your pieces back for one, which is very useful, and you get to complete that puzzle, which might give you a new piece to use, some end game points and more. And that's really where the kind of fun comes in, is as you complete these puzzles, you get bigger and better kind of pieces, which hopefully mean that you can complete future puzzles using fewer pieces. Because every time you place a piece, it takes an action for you. You only have so many actions on a turn. So you really want to be as efficient as possible. You want to make sure that you can place things, get those puzzles completed, get to a new puzzle as fast as you can, and then start to work on the bigger, more valuable puzzles as you kind of get your pool of pieces built up a little bit. There's just a few simple actions you can do in this game, and this is one that I feel like you will definitely get better at as you go. You'll start to visualize that kind of spatial puzzle. You'll start to see like, okay, if I put this piece in here, even though it's a strange shape, I'm able to put this other piece in here and I can get this done in maybe 3 moves instead of maybe 4 or 5 when I first started playing the game. And those kinds of things are really satisfying. I love games that you can kind of grow with and get better at and level up in. Project L is certainly that. It's got a great look to it. The puzzles themselves are black and white. The pieces are bright colors, so it just all stands out really nicely. It's very easy to see what pieces or what spaces you need to fill in, so then you can then choose which pieces you want to fill them with. On and on and on. It's one that just has satisfaction written all over it, so that's why it's our number 1.
So that was our top 10 gateway games.
Absolutely. Please let us know what you think of these ones. Go to Board Game Geek itself. Go give these games a rating. If they're some of your favorites, you know you can rate your games at Board Game Geek. Go check that out over there. And also, please in the comments, suggest your gateway games. Which are things that you think must be mentioned. Of course, there are so many more than we mentioned here. This is merely a selection.
We steered away from a lot of the classics, you know.
Yeah, just to show something new. So of course, you know, we haven't forgot about you, Carcassonne. We know you're out there. Right? It's all love. It's all love. But let us know in the comments which gateway games you think should be included on this list, and we'll catch y'all next time. Bye.